Hey guys, it's Lazbro, and I'm back to read another chapter of Annabelle. If you remember the last time, Stromboli used Annabelle to perform for his puppet show to lure Pinocchio there so he could capture him again. And his plan almost worked if it wasn't for the little kitten Figgy and Jiminy Cricket, who managed to help them defeat the villains and allow them time to escape. So they managed to get away from the villains, but unfortunately I don't think Annabelle's going to be out of the woods just yet, because she's going to have to do a lot of explaining when she gets home. So it looks like she's still going to be in trouble. So we'll see what's going to happen here. So here we go. Chapter 8. A Growing Lie. Uh-oh. I think we all know what's going to happen here. So anyway, Pinocchio hurried back to town, wanting to get as far away from Stromboli as possible, carrying Annabelle and Figgy in his arms while Jiminy rode on his shoulder. When they entered the village, Pinocchio saw a policeman patrolling the streets. "Ah, perfect timing! Officer, please help us!" he called out and ran towards the man. "What's the trouble, young man?" the policeman asked. "Stromboli the puppet master tried to kidnap my daughter and me," Pinocchio told him. The policeman looked at Annabelle in his arms. "How do I know you didn't steal that puppet from him?" he asked suspiciously. "He's telling the truth, officer," Jiminy stated. "Honest John and his partner Gideon lured Annabelle to Stromboli, and they used her to try to capture Pinocchio here." "Honest John and Gideon? We've been looking for those two crooks for years. I'll get the boys over there and we'll arrest them all. You get yourselves home safely," the policeman instructed them. "Thank you, officer." The policeman then hurried off to get more officers to arrest the cons and the puppet master. After he had left, Pinocchio took a moment to rest and make sure everyone was unharmed. "Is everyone all right?" he asked. "I'm all right, Daddy. I think Figgy is too," said Annabelle, still a bit frightened from the ordeal and cuddling the kitten in her arms. Figgy meowed, letting them know that she was okay too. "I'm okay too, Pinocchio," said Jiminy. "But for a while there, I thought Gideon was going to smash me like a bug." "You are a bug." "I'm glad you're all safe and unharmed. I'd feel terrible if something happened to you guys." "Thanks for saving me, Daddy," Annabelle smiled with relief, but Pinocchio was displeased with his daughter because of her actions put everybody in danger. "You're still in big trouble, young lady," Pinocchio warned her. "When we get home, you've got a lot of explaining to do." Uh-oh. Pinocchio is not happy. Annabelle is in big trouble. Pinocchio then started walking home as Annabelle worried what was going to happen. When they finally got back to the house, Pinocchio turned on the lights, brought Annabelle into the living room, and began to question her about the puppet show. "Now, Annabelle, where did I tell you to go today?" he asked her. To school," she answered nervously. "Then explain to me why you didn't go to school as I instructed you. And I want to hear the truth from you." Pinocchio's serious. Well, Annabelle was too anxious to tell him and tried to think of an excuse to explain herself. She looked at Jiminy on his shoulder, and he looked cross too. "Go on, Annabelle. Tell your father why you ditched school," Jiminy instructed, making her even more nervous. He hoped she would tell Pinocchio the truth, but from the look on her face, he knew what was going to happen. "Well, Daddy, I was following the children to school when I met these two monsters with big scary teeth." Just then, Annabelle felt her nose begin to twitch. A strange light appeared around it, and it suddenly grew a few inches. Annabelle was wide-eyed and surprised by this unusual feature that had happened to her. "Monsters, huh?" said Pinocchio, folding his arms over his chest. "What did they want?" They wanted to get me to go with them, so I tried to run away, and they locked me in a cage." Her nose grew a few more inches as she continued to lie, with a leaf growing at the end of it. Annabelle gasped when she saw her nose grow again. She poked the tip with her finger, wondering what was making it get bigger. "I see. And what about Jiminy? I sent him after to make sure you got to school on time," Pinocchio inquired. He tried to save me, but they caught him and put him in a little cage," Annabelle replied as her nose grew longer, with even more leaves popping up and growing bigger. "Then what happened?" Pinocchio asked, staring at her nose, which was getting longer with every lie she told. They brought us to the puppet show, and Mr. Stromboli said if I didn't perform for him, he'd chop me into firewood. Her nose grew once more, with branches growing at the end of tiny leaves on them. What's happening? My nose! I'll tell you what's happening, Annabelle, Jiminy explained. Your nose is growing because you're not telling the truth. But I am telling the truth, Annabelle insisted, causing her nose to grow again. The branches and leaves got bigger and longer, and pink flowers started to appear on them. Her nose was now 5 feet long and so dense and heavy that she could barely hold it up. Suddenly she lost her balance and fell backwards, her wooden body clattering on the hard floor. Young lady, you know that's not what happened, Jiminy shouted, hopping onto the end of her nose and pointing his finger at him. You're lying, and when you lie, it's as plain as the nose on your face. He's right, Annabelle, Pinocchio said angrily. Jiminy told you not to go to Stromboli's, and you deliberately didn't listen. You also made a fool of yourself at that puppet show and embarrassed me in front of all those people. I am very disappointed in you. Seeing how angry her father was and the results of what her lies had done to her nose, Annabelle felt sad and ashamed of what she did. I'm sorry, Daddy. Tears began leaking from her eyes as she started to cry. Pinocchio felt terrible seeing his daughter crying. As a father, he knew he had to comfort her. You think we might have been too hard on her, Jiminy? He asked, and Jiminy nodded in reply. I think she's learned her lesson, Pinocchio, he said, hopping off Annabelle's nose. Pinocchio then knelt down and took out a handkerchief from his pocket and used it to dry his daughter's tears. After she stopped sobbing and settled down, he spoke kindly, trying to get the truth from her. Annabelle, I'm sorry if Jiminy and I were so hard on you, but you really shouldn't tell lies. The fairy once told me that a lie keeps growing and growing until it's as plain as the nose on your face. That's why you should tell the truth instead. Now will you please tell us what really happened? Okay, Daddy, I'll tell the truth, she replied sadly, wiping the tears from her eyes. I met Mr. Honest John and Gideon, and they said Mr. Stromboli was your friend and his puppet show was failing. Stromboli told me that he was sad because people didn't come to see it anymore. I only went because I thought he was nice, and I wanted to help him like you always help people when they come to see you. When Annabelle spoke truthfully, she felt her nose tingling, and it slowly started to grow shorter. The leaves and flowers shriveled up and fell off, and the branches receded back into her nose as it shrank until it was back to its normal size. She patted the tip a few times with her finger, making sure every lie she told had been redeemed. When Pinocchio heard her speak the truth, he realized she was only doing what she believed was the right thing, because he taught her to help anyone who asked for help. I'm so sorry, Annabelle. I should never have sent you off to school on your own. I should have told you about Stromboli and Honest John. He hugged her tightly and cried a little himself. I'm sorry too, Daddy, Annabelle cried and hugged him back. Jiminy stood silently watching this moment between them and felt guilty for not being able to keep Annabelle from making the same mistake Pinocchio made. Figgy walked over to her dad, who had been watching the whole time, and lowered her head. I'm sorry, too, for yelling at you, Daddy, and running away like that, she apologized. But to her surprise, Figaro smiled and licked her face. It's okay, Figgy, I forgive you. What you did was very brave. I'm sorry for being so rude to Annabelle. I guess I am just a grumpy old cat. Pinocchio glanced over at Figaro nuzzling his kitten, and it made him glad knowing he wasn't the only one trying to be a good father. Yeah, see, Figaro and Pinocchio are in the same boat here, They're trying to be good dads, but, it's not easy being a parent. Kids make mistakes, and sometimes the parents aren't always right. The kids are right sometimes. But when the kids get out of line, sometimes the parents have to correct them. I'm going to put Annabelle to bed, Jiminy. She's been through a lot today, said Pinocchio. Okay, Pinocchio. I'll wait for you here. Good night, Annabelle. Good night, Jiminy. Pinocchio carried his daughter upstairs, and Figgy followed them. Annabelle put on her nightgown and climbed onto the bed, with the kitten beside her. I'm sorry I was bad and didn't go to school, she sobbed as Pinocchio tucked her in. It wasn't all your fault, Princess, he told her, sitting on the edge of the bed trying to comfort her. I should have been a more responsible parent and took you to school myself. I never thought you'd meet those same bad people I met all those years ago. I was scared I'd lose you, but I promise I'll never let anyone take you again. Daddy, Stromboli said I couldn't be a real girl. Is that right? She asked, worried about what Stromboli said after the show. No, Annabelle. Don't you believe his lies. I was a puppet, and I became a real boy. And someday you'll be real too, I promise. I don't care if I never become a real girl. I just want to make you proud of me. From now on, I'm going to do right and be truthful. That's my little girl, Pinocchio smiled and kissed her forehead. I'll promise to try and be a better father. Good night, my little wooden princess. After he had left, Annabelle stayed awake for quite some time. She thought about everything she had done and rechecked her nose, making sure it was truly back to normal. Are you all right, Annabelle? Figgy asked. Yes, I'm all right. Thanks for saving me from Stromboli. That was very brave of you to come help us. I'm just glad you're okay. I love you, Annabelle, and I'd feel sad if anything happened to you. Aw, thanks, Figgy. I love you too. I'll try to do better from now on so I can make everyone proud of me. She cuddled up with the kitten and soon fell fast asleep in a matter of minutes. Pinocchio went downstairs and sat in the kitchen feeling guilty from what had happened. He sat down at the kitchen table and put his head down. Are you all right, Pinocchio? Jiminy asked, seeing his friend unhappy. I feel so irresponsible, Jiminy, Pinocchio replied sadly. I made the same mistake my father made sending me off on my own. The same thing that happened to me happened to her. Some father I turned out to be. Now don't be so hard on yourself, pal. Being a parent isn't the easiest job in the world. I'm just as much to blame, too. I should have persuaded her to go to school a lot better. What am I supposed to do, Jiminy? Suppose she gets taken away to Pleasure Island or swallowed by another whale like Monstro. I'd hate for her to have to go through the same things I went through. Unfortunately, Pinocchio, she's going to make mistakes. All children go through their phases. But I think she's learned an important lesson today about giving in to temptations. Hopefully she won't make that mistake again. I'm still afraid something might happen to her. I wish there was some way for her to walk around safely and not stray off. Jiminy thought for a minute, then got an idea. I just thought of something, Pinocchio. We can ask that girl Alex she made friends with to accompany her. She seems like an intelligent and responsible girl. Maybe she can help keep Annabelle safe. That's an excellent idea, Jiminy. I'll go see Juliana tomorrow and talk to her about having Alex accompany Annabelle from now on. Sounds like a plan. The two of them went to bed, hoping that their plan would keep Pinocchio's daughter from getting into any more trouble. End of Chapter 8. Well, this was kind of a short one, but it's kind of wrapping things up here. So, Annabelle learned to be honest and, not give in to temptations, but, she's still going to make mistakes, like Jiminy said, because, she's still young and in the early days, and all kids make mistakes and tell lies, but the important thing is they're all safe, and Pinocchio's, still struggling with trying to be a good dad. He's really trying to live up to his father's expectations of him. But, it's not easy being a parent, and, there's going to be struggles. But hopefully this plan of theirs is going to work out. So Alex is going to be Annabelle's chaperone, I guess. So we'll see what happens in the next chapter. And in the next chapter, we're going to meet another new character. Well, actually, like a couple new characters in this story. Some of my own original characters. I think you guys will like them. Anyway, if you guys like this little chapter here, please leave a like and comment down below. And I'll have the next chapter up very soon. Until next time, I'm Lazbro. I'll catch you guys.